Hello everybody. This is a bit unprompted and it's just honestly a test to see if this works, but so I recently did something very unfortunate. I read the entirety of Leopardstar's Honor, and I have thoughts. So, I had heard, of course, that in the community, it wasn't a good book. Like, people said over and over again, don't read it, it's a horrible, awful book, and they weren't totally wrong. Like, I read through it in like 2 days. All 500 pages, which we'll get into that in a sec. And it is just a hot mess. But not the exact hot mess I was thinking about. So, just some warning, I'm going to be spoiling the entire book, or at least as much as I am going to discuss about. And this is going to be unedited, so if anything weird happens, or like I go silent for a little bit or lose my thoughts, I ain't gonna edit over that. It's just gonna be straight audio, one take. And let me take a sip of water real quick. Okay, so Leopardstar's Honor. A little background about this. Leopardstar's Honor was a part of the poll for 2021. 2020 poll, I guess. Actually, never mind, sorry. That consisted of Leopardstar, 1 star, and Black Star. Now, it was very close, like it was almost a 3-way tie, but Leopardstar won, with 1 star just a little bit behind it, and Blackfoot lost. Now, Blackfoot got a novella, back when those were still thing, but we got Leopardstar's Honor first, and then later 1 star's Confession. And I haven't read 1 star Confession yet, but I heard that one's also terrible. So as you might expect, I'm really excited. But first off, the title, Leopardstar's Honor. Nowhere in this book does Leopardstar ever bring up her honor. Like, it's never really brought up. I don't think she ever specifically says honor. I don't think Mudfur ever brings up honor. I don't think anyone ever brings up honor, or like warrior's honor in the book. I could be wrong, but that's not a great title. If anything, a better title would be Leopardstar's Hubris, because just Leopardstar, the thing with her is she's not a good person. The only reason you would want to read this book is to find out either why she's not a good person, or to see more of her not being a good person, but from her perspective. And oh boy, do we get that. But, yeah. So let's move on to the content we're in. So this book is in the vein of many early super editions, where essentially it's a recap of her life. It's a prequel book. But it's a very weird prequel book. First off, it covers the events from around the time she's born to about the end of the 6th book of The Prophecies Begin. And the earlier part of the book time skips, like, a bunch. Like, the first 5 chapters, there's, like, moons, even years. Like, first chapter, it's her as a kid. Then we jump to her being apprentice, and then her apprentice being done, to being a young warrior, to her eventually getting her own apprentice. And, like, a span of, like, 5 chapters. Which is a lot. And barring the fact that some of these time skips occur in the same chapter, not even like a couple days, but like whole moons occur, which is unprecedented for warrior cats, and not in a good way. It kind of feels that they had a very good outline for what this book we could tell, but they wrote it and they forgot to chop up the chapters properly. Because like I said, it's a 500-page book, and to me, it feels like it should have been a 40-chapter book. It's only 35. Barring the fact that the 35th chapter is like 4 pages, 5 generously. And it's not really a good ending. The chapter is just like a hype. Like she says, yeah, let's go beat Scourge, yeah. So, it's not really a good ending. And now granted, this book was written during COVID, like the height of COVID. And apparently there was a lot of issues with this book. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about the book that we have. Like, I actually have it in my hands right here. So, first, let's talk about her character, which is probably the main reason I think a lot of people would want to read this book. Now, Leopardstar, as a person, as I said before, is not good. She's not a villain. No, she doesn't really do villainous... Well, she does villainous things. But she's not strictly a villain. And here's the funny thing about that. Pretty much the entirety of the book, she's kind of not seen as a very bad person. Like, her mentality for certain things is not good. Up to the point when Tigerstar literally tells his people to kill her deputy. That is the moment that she says, oh shoot, am I the bad guy, or am I made a mistake? Not before, not after, it's just the moment. Like, there is build up to her, like, doubting his decision, like Tigerstar cutting her out of important decisions, but she's kind of like, it's for the good of the clan, it's for the good of the clan, it's for the good of the clan. And it just kind of comes off a bit nearsighted. Like, we get it, she's not a good person, but you didn't have to make her stupid. Because she never makes a good decision, ever. Even when she makes decisions, which doesn't happen a lot, mind you, it kind of feels like there's no thought behind it. Like, for instance, Stonefur becoming her deputy. When her choosing Stonefur to become her deputy is so brain dead. So here's how it works. So for the majority of the books, she never mentions Stonefur. Like, them being brought up as grateful kits never comes up. Like, they come into the story so suddenly, I couldn't even tell you when it happened. I'm probably about, like, 10 probably. And early, the chapter before she chooses him as her deputy, when Characterization still is alive, she literally points out, whoa, he fought in that battle, and he was a really good warrior in that battle. But that's the only time she ever mentions Stonefur. And even when she becomes leader, the only times she ever has a conversation with him is when bad stuff going down. Like, we never see their actual dynamic. And it kind of makes you question, why did she choose him? Was it just for, like, plot convenience? Like, did they not think of a good way for her to choose him and just said, she needs to choose him, and just made it a very arbitrary reason? I don't know. So, let's talk about the Tigerstar part. So Tigerstar appears a lot in this book, go figure, and it's honestly kind of fascinating. Because it starts off, they're both warriors, and they're very outspoken warriors. And it's very clear, and actually it's an interesting show, because it actually shows Tigerstar being very intelligent. Which, if you've read the books before, this isn't a new thing. Like, Tigerstar is very methodical. He has a plan, and he will do whatever it takes to get to the plan, but he's willing to wait. Like, he even tells her at one point, you need to have patience. Like, you need to chill out, girl. And up to the point where they both become deputies, and when he's exiled and becomes leader of Shadow Clan, it's interesting, because their dynamic's very interesting. Because they're very similar in the fact they want change to happen, and they have very strong moral principles. Like, Leopardstar doesn't like outside cats, and she's not afraid to do whatever it takes to protect her clan. Same with Tigerstar, but he's willing to go a bit further, which is why this whole thing happens. And then, near the end, which is a bit out of nowhere, but at the same time, you could infer it by some of their conversations earlier on, but only a bit loosely. We get the prospect of them being in love. Well, not really in love, more so romantic tension. Because it seems that at one point they have a conversation about the bone pile. And he kind of hits on her a bit. Like, says, ooh, come here often. And it's kind of weird because I always wasn't pardon me. I was always under the assumption that the whole part of the reason Leopardstar agreed to this whole thing was because she was in love with him. I thought that was a fan canon. Like, I didn't think it was something that was actually justified in text. And I don't know if they know about this or just thought it was good motivation, but they're like, yeah. Although, to their credit, her agreeing to Tiger Clan is not because she's in love with him. That never happens. He's the one that insinuates that maybe they have a romantic connection. She never brings that up, but she just like, maybe we could. It's very brief too. Like, if the book had a little more chapters, they could have maybe expanded upon it. Like, maybe had it more, because you go from him hitting on her in one chapter to him cutting her out completely in the next chapter. So it feels like we lost a bit in between there. But at the end of the day, I very much like their dynamic, because it seemed like, start off, they meet, they're on even ground, and then she becomes deputy, and then he becomes deputy, and then she's exiled, and then she becomes a leader, and then he comes to her as a leader, and they're on equal footing. And every conversation after they have that initial conversation where they want to be equals and have this Tiger clan, or leopard clan as she wants to call it, he slowly, very incrementally, gets more power. And it not just like in terms of actual power, but also in terms of the conversation. Like, he's clearly slowly commanding more of the conversation, and like kind of, I don't want to say gaslighting. Oh, okay, I'll say he's kind of gaslighting her in a way. Like, he's essentially saying, "You wanted this, didn't you?" And Leopardstar's kind of like, "I don't know, did I? Okay." And it's only until the point that he dies, like Scourge kills Tigerstar, that she finally kind of comes to a realization that, like, yeah, this is screwed. Like, obviously she wanted him out, but she couldn't really do anything. And she's even doubting herself the entire time after he's dead. But I will say, after the whole Tigerstar thing happens, we get Leopardstar by herself, essentially kind of coming to terms with her actions. And it is very, very weak. The whole thing with Leopardstar kind of coming to terms with her action, like, she kind of has realization, like, she talks to her father, Mudfur. If you didn't know that, her Mudfur is her father. I don't think a lot of people know that. She has this, like, whole, like, kind of internal monologue and kind of realization that, like, oh yeah, I screwed up. I caused all this to happen. And it's good stuff in the sense that she's realizing it, but at the same time, they didn't really give a lot of justification of why she's only realizing it now. Like, you think she would have realized something earlier, because, like, it does portray her as a very bad person, which we knew. Like, this is not something that came out of nowhere. But at the same time, it makes her come off as, like, not that smart. Also, to further this, they continue through the entire book. They bring up this prophecy. Like, Mudfur believes that she's going to save the clan. She never saves the clan, ever. You could say her bringing River Clan in to help them during the great battle against Scourge. That could have counted, but that's really weak reasoning. Like, unbelievably weak, if that was the payoff. Like, I don't even know if it actually is paid off in this book specifically. You could have cut the entirety of the prophecy and nothing would have changed. Not even, like, her fight with her father. Like, obviously, part of the reason that they fight a lot is because of this prophecy that he thinks. But, it's just a hot mess. I also briefly mentioned the Mistyfoot plotline, because after Leopardstar allows her brother, the brother of Mistyfar, Stonefur, to die, he basically says, "Hey, you want his job?" And Mistyfoot very agreeably says, "Hell no. I'm gonna live in my mother's clan because they don't treat me like a piece of garbage and they don't want to murder me." And what's funny is that she's like, and Leopardstar's like, "Yeah, but fish." And then Mistyfoot's kind of like, "Alright, I'll come back and help you." And what's funnier too is that Leopardstar does not change. Like, if you read later books, she doesn't change. Even in, like, a Shadow River Clan, where she and Feathertail and Stormfur have this conversation about, yeah, she messed up, you don't feel sorry for her. Like, you don't accept her apology. They don't even fully accept her apology. It's such weak reasoning as to move the story along. Like, we know in the original series, Mistyfoot does agree to go back, but giving us the scene in which she's asked and agrees to, while potentially interesting, they cut it really short. Like, considering how long this book is, you think they might stretch it out a bit longer, but, like, it's only, like, less than 10 pages. Is like, the meeting, them having the conversation, and then Mistyfoot agreeing, "Yes, I'll come back." And it just kind of seems that maybe near the end of writing the book was when they were really hitting issues with COVID. And that's probably where they struggled a lot. And they're like, listen, we just gotta push this book out the door. I don't know. I'll cut a little slack. But overall, the book is not great. Leopardstar's Hubris is not a good book. If I had to give it like a rating, which I don't really believe in, but like, you know, might as well. I gotta give it like a 2 out of 5 because some of the earlier stuff, like her relationship with Frogleap. Listen, it may be stupid, but it's the only interesting thing I can think of that in the whole book. Like her dynamic of, she's maybe kind of in love with him, but she's more focused on being a warrior, and then him like leaving her, and her kind of like fighting for him to stay. That's pretty cool stuff. I like that also Frogleap constantly, like during that kind of whole scene where he's like, listen, we can't be a thing because you value your job too much. He doesn't blame her. She's blaming herself. But Frogleap never blames her in the entire scene. Ever. The only time he ever blames her for stuff is when, like, his new wife and kids die and stuff, which, you know, fair. But I don't know, I just thought it was very interesting. That whole situation. Very mature. Surprised. And before I finish, let's talk about the funniest thing about this book. The continuity. Now listen, I don't care much for Warrior Cat's continuity, because pretty much every single Warrior Cat's book contradicts another book. So it's honestly not worth it to keep up with the continuity of the series. But what is funny is looking at all the continuity errors on like the Warriors wiki, because there's a lot, and it's funny that there are this many. Like 10, 20, we're used to that. But like 50? Holy. That's a lot. Now, most of the continuity error, like I don't have the list up right now, but most of the continuity error is just like cats being apprenticed or warriors and not elders, or being alive or not being dead, stuff like that. Which, you know, again, warrior cats, that's normal. But the fact there's so much of it is kind of a shock. And of all books, too. It just surprised me. And one more complaint before I wrap this up. 500 pages. This book should not need 500 pages. Like, seriously. Of all Warrior Cats Super Editions, haven't really done 500 pages since, like, I don't know, like the early books. So, out of all books, give 500 pages. Like, not even One Star's Confession gets 500 pages. Like, it's 450. Which, again, I haven't read yet, but I looked at the page number. Just know what I was getting into. But the fact that of all Warrior Cats books, like, I personally thought that Squirrel Flight's Hope should have had more. Because I like the characterization of Squirrel Flight. I like her characterization. I don't like the characterization of Leopardstar. Because it doesn't really do much to justify her actions. But, I don't know. It's not a good book. Not a great book. You should read it. Definitely. If you want to read it, you definitely should, because it is funny. It is very funny. Not because, like, there are jokes in it, like, Warrior Cats doesn't really do jokes. It's funny purely because of all the insane things they get up to, like, oh my goodness. Anyway, this is the first of who knows how many rant videos. I didn't want to, like, do a whole presentation, so I'm just going to doing it off the cuff. And this is one take, unedited, just gonna upload it. But fun fact, next book I'm reading is One Star's Confession. And if I have heard many things about that, apparently it's worse than this book. So maybe I'll do another one of these when I finish reading that one. And also, Traitor and ThunderClan, the new manga, came out literally today, the day I'm recording this. So once I read that, I'm probably going to do all the manga ranked. So, see that in the future. But anyways, I don't know, tell me what you thought of Leopardstar's Honor in the comments below. And, I hope you all have a nice day. Bye.